Hi friends, it's Evelyn here. Welcome back to the channel, and as always, a huge thanks to all of you for supporting me and my creativity journey on this little corner of the internet. And with Halloween over, it's definitely autumn. No matter how much I want to cling on to summer, autumn is definitely here. And for me, autumn means one thing, and that is knitting. Back in October, I popped a poll here on the YouTube channel, and I wasn't entirely sure A, if it worked, B, if anyone could see it, and C, if anyone would even vote on it, because me being the technologically incompetent person that I am, didn't even know if I'd put it on properly, but I clearly had, because you got voting and you liked all three options. So I'm going to give you what you want, and we are going to do all three on the channel here, starting with a knit along, and we're going to create the Claire jumper like the one I'm wearing now. I absolutely love this jumper, and it's from a wonderful vintage pattern that is available via a Google Drive link that I'll pop in the description box below. Although this vintage pattern did only come in one single size, do not let that deter you, my friends, because there are so many wonderful tutorials out there on how to grade up or grade down knitting patterns, including here on the wonderful YouTube. And when I first created my very first Claire jumper, which is the one you see me wearing here, I actually ended up grading up the pattern slightly, which led it to be a little bit on the big side. So this knit along is the perfect opportunity for me to give the pattern another go. If you're new to knitting or would like a little reminder, I'll pop a card above to a video where I show you how to knit berets, which goes through a lot of the stitches in detail that we're going to use for the Claire jumper knit along. In this first week, my friends, we're going to knit the back of our jumper, and I'm also going to share with you my very favourite hot chocolate recipe, perfect for Bonfire Night. So, without further ado, let's talk about our knitting supplies. For your Claire jumper, you are going to need about 400 grams of double knit or DK weight yarn, one pair of 2.75mm needles and one pair of 3.25mm needles, and a darning needle when we come to put our jumper panels together. Wow, what a tongue twister that was, but I got through it. Without further ado, my friends, let's get to some knitting, some hot chocolate making, and of course, an all-important cuppa. Let's go. Begin by creating a slip knot. Using the 2.75mm needles, cast on 100 stitches. The first thing the pattern calls for is a 2x2 rib, which is created by knitting 2 knit stitches followed by 2 purl stitches, repeating this all the way along the row. And it looks a little something like this. And the pattern asks us to create this ribbing for 4.5 inches. Now that I have knit in the 2x2 ribbing for 4.5 inches, the pattern calls for us to increase the number of stitches from 100 to 120. So I'm going to create a new stitch every 5 stitches by using the make one method. Begin by knitting the first 5 stitches. I then make a new stitch, picking up the horizontal yarn seen here onto my left hand needle and knitting it like so to create my first increase. Continue to do so all along the row. So now that the increases are made, we need to start using the larger sized needles. The back of your jumper is then knit in stockinette stitch, repeating 1 row of knitting followed by 1 row of purling until the piece measures 11.5 inches, or as long as it needs to be to measure from your waist to your underarm. Next, the pattern asks us to bind off 7 stitches at the beginning of the next 2 rows. To do so, begin by stitching 2 stitches onto the right hand needle, and then using your left hand needle, pick up the first stitch and lift it over the second like so, decreasing by 1. Repeat this process 7 times at the start of the next 2 rows. Now that those 2 rows are complete, the pattern wants us to decrease 1 stitch at each end of every other row 3 times. And when those decrease rows are complete, continue in stockinette stitch for 4.5 inches from the first decreases we made. So I've done those decrease rows and it's effectively created our back arm side by taking 10 stitches off at each side. I've then done stockinette stitch for 4.5 inches. Now the pattern wants us to work across the remaining 100 stitches on the needles as follows. It wants us to keep that stockinette stitch for the first 25 stitches, and over the next 50 stitches it wants us to create 2x2 ribbing by doing 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, 2 purl stitches, 2 knit stitches, and so on for those 50 stitches. And then from the remaining 25 it wants us to carry on in stockinette, effectively creating a lovely ribbed neckline. I've knit the ribbed neckline for 2.5 inches as the pattern asks, and it's now time to cast off and finish the back of our Claire jumper. To do this, finish the neckline on a purl row so that your next row to knit is a knit row. Knit 2 stitches onto your right needle and then slip the first stitch over the second to cast it off. Repeat this process all along the row until just 1 stitch remains on your right hand needle. With just that single stitch remaining, pull your right needle upwards, widening that final stitch. Leaving a decent tail, cut your yarn and feed the end of the yarn through the stitch, pulling on the yarn to tighten and finish that final stitch, and the back of your jumper is finished. Begin by warming up your favourite milk. Then add your white chocolate, and I use a whole bar because I'm definitely not sweet enough. Carefully mix while continuing to heat the milk until all that wonderful chocolate is dissolved. Pour into your favourite mug or hot chocolate glass, being sure to leave space for cream and marshmallows, of course. And here's one of the best parts. Using white chocolate with this hot chocolate recipe means that your toasty tipple can be whatever colour you want. And remember to top your hot chocolate with marshmallows, squirty cream and those all important sprinkles. Enjoy! Phew! So there we go, how to create the most delicious white chocolate hot chocolate to share with your loved ones this bonfire night, and how to knit the back of your Claire jumper. Let me know how you're getting on in the comments below, guys, and come over and connect with me on Instagram, where we can chat all things creativity, sewing, knitting and anything else you might want to have a blether about. But until next week, when we carry on the Claire jumper knit along and also create something for our four-legged friends, you take care, my friends. Stay safe. Bye.